Speaker number 8, Lance Miller. The ultimate question. The ultimate question, Lance Miller. Thank you.
The ultimate question. That question that has plagued man since the dawn of time. And that question that each and every one of us must ask at some point in our life. Do you validate? Mr. Chairman, fellow Toastmasters and friends, I was 26 years old. I was living in a small town in Indiana. I had a job I didn't like. I hadn't had a date in 3 years. And I had a couple of roommates named Mom and Dad. I felt like my life was going nowhere. So I took control. I left my home and my family, and I headed to Los Angeles to start over. 6 months later, I had a job I didn't like. I was dating a girl who was trying to make me better by pointing out all of my faults. And I had a couple of roommates that made Dumb and Dumber look like Einstein and Oppenheimer. I had changed everything in my life, but nothing had changed. I still felt like I was going nowhere. And then one day after a business meeting, all I wanted to do was get my parking validated. And I walked over to the receptionist and said, "Excuse me, do you validate?" And she looked up and said, "Well, yes, I do. You have a lovely smile." Showing her the ticket, I said, "No, I was just in a meeting with your boss. Do you validate?" And she said, "Well, let me compliment you on what a fine choice of business associates you have." Catching on, I said, "You have such a keen sense of humor. I'm going to go tell your boss how lucky he is to have you out here." And she goes, "Give me that ticket." She took her little machine and she went, cha-chink. And then as she handed it back, she looked at me and she said, "There's something special about you." I took the ticket and headed for the elevator. But I stopped. I turned around and just said, "Thank you." I don't know how long it had been since I'd felt validated. Her words stayed with me all the way home. And as I was looking at my life, I started to wonder how long it had been since I'd validated somebody else. I wanted to do that. I wanted to make people feel good. But I felt that I needed to be important. I needed to be successful, so that when I said something to somebody, it meant something to them. But that receptionist had just made my day. Heck, she made my month. With one little cha-chink, she stamped my ticket. And I thought, I can do that. So I went home to see Dumb and Dumber. These guys were constantly bringing people back to the apartment. It was driving me nuts. But I went in and I said, "You make friends faster than anybody I've ever seen. And that is a gift." To see their faces, I swear they got smarter right before my eyes. Cha-chink. I went to see my girlfriend, and I thanked her for caring enough about me that she wanted to see me be as good as I could be. You know what? She got nicer. Cha-chink. I went to work, and I thanked my boss for hiring me. He'd done me a favor, and I started to enjoy my work a lot more. Cha-chink. I used to think I had to be important before I could validate other people. I used to look at people as obstacles to my success. But what I discovered was I became important when I validated other people. I became important to that person and that person. People were the pathway to my success. I started trying to find something I could stamp on everybody I met. That little piece of goodness, that little piece of rightness, just a little cha-chink. I started to feel like a superhero. Underneath this mild-mannered exterior was a blue and red spandex suit with a giant V on the chest. Yes, I was the validator. When things would get tense, they'd tighten up, I'd come in and cha-chink, cha-chink, cha-chink. I had plenty of ink. I'd hear people say, "Who was that man?" "I don't know, but I heard this cha-chink and suddenly I feel so much better now." And then I figured it out. You know what's wrong with the world? You know what's wrong with me? Do you know what's wrong with you? Who cares? The question is, what is right with the world? What is right with me? What is right with you? The common denominator of all humanity is the fact that we are human. We are by nature imperfect. It takes no special talent to find an imperfection in another person. But every person goes through life wanting to be right, wanting to be valuable. Find that. Bring it out in them. I started to discover in my life that I got what I validated. I found out that I brought out the goodness, the value in others by validating that. We have a lot of problems in this world, but I've learned that there is not a problem that exists between a parent and a child, between a husband and a wife, between a worker and his employer, or between races, cultures, or nations that does not stem directly from an inability or an unwillingness to validate the rightness, the value, and the goodness in another. This is the ultimate question. Do you validate? But this is not what's important. What's important is, can you Can you Can you You've been a great audience. Thank you.